Hello everyone, Jordan Danser here and Mike Hall with the Mended Collective. We're going to talk a little bit about community and how God puts us in community, the importance of that. Now, if you look, there's a lot of people that are partial members at church. You know, they believe they're a part of that. You ask them, hey, where do you go to church? They'll tell you an answer, but they're there half the time and they're not involved with those people. Is that the biblical vision of what church membership looks like and participation in that community, or should we be looking for something else?
Certainly that's not at all what the Bible has in mind, and not just those that are only marginally attending, if you will, that's all their involvement is, but also those that believe they can be a Christian without any association at all with the church. Acts chapter 2, we're told that God adds people to the church at the point of salvation, adds them to that body.
Yeah, well, and if you think about that, in Acts chapter 2, there's all of this breaking down of barriers. There's people hanging out with each other all the time if you read that text.
They had all things in common. It's an amazing text to think about community. All these people traveling from a great distance away, they only had supplies for that journey. They get to Jerusalem, they hear this life-changing message about Jesus Christ, and they don't go home. They all stay together as a community, and so much so that everybody began to sell what they had in excess to meet the needs of one another.
Yeah, that's more than just like a very surface level relationship. These are people who are now intimately invested in each other's lives.
And that's the biblical picture we see, is an intimate investing, that when I'm added to the body, that I become a part of that body. Sure. And just as much as my knee is a part of my body, intimately connected to everything that I do, so when a person becomes a Christian, God adds them to that body, and they have an intimate, not just a casual surface level, intimate connection.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the passages that talk about the church as a body or the community as a body. What are some that you think of?
A couple that come to mind just off the top of my head, Romans 12, 1 Corinthians 12, both begin to describe the body as not just one member, but many members, but one body.
Sure.
And so there's this oneness that we have, but in the same time, it talks about our uniqueness in that body. He says, yes, you're all in one body, but you don't all have the same roles or the same functions. Everybody has a different kind of function.
Sure, yeah. Well, and there's different levels of importance, right? He talks about how there's some things that are flashy and everybody can see it and it looks really cool, but then there's other people that are just as critical, but it's not as at the forefront. And we shouldn't confuse ourselves to thinking that just because it's not as public means it's not as important.
Well, and I was going to challenge you there on that word important. You said some that aren't as important.
Sure.
That's kind of our perspective.
Right.
We see, as you said, the flashy, the guy out front, and we think, well, that's the important part of the body, and that's where the most attention needs to go. 1 Corinthians 12, Romans 12, both of those talk about, the King James uses the word the uncomely parts, the parts that don't get as much honor. They deserve more honor, and they're just as important. In fact, he makes the argument there in 1 Corinthians that they're even more important than these parts that get all the attention.
Sure, because we're so likely to neglect those, right? And this is the way that the community of God really kind of subverts the community of the world, that God hasn't called us in to be people that are just flashy and all the people with talent get all the attention, but it's everyone gets the love and care of one another. I think about, as a body, I think about your ACL, which is a part in your knee, right? And if you watch athletes, they get complimented on their bodies and their ability and their talents, but nobody talks about how great their ACL is until it's gone. And there's a lot of places where people are in church bodies that what they do isn't flashy, isn't what everybody talks about, but the church runs and is blessed by what they do.
Without that ACL,
nobody walks. Nobody
He's
runs.
not an athlete
exactly.
anymore.
Yeah, they're in a wheelchair.
And so same with the church. When people aren't fulfilling the roles that they can play within that body, the body can't function the way God designed it. There's a lot of blessings that come when I intentionally invest and take the time to be a part of that community. What are some of the blessings you can think of?
Well, one of the ones I can think of is just the mutual joy and care that you have for one another, that you can share your joys and your struggles with it. Because if you have a great day, the first thing you want to do is you want to tell somebody about it. You want to share that excitement and that joy. And when you have a bad day, you want to tell everybody how crummy your day is. That's an important part of it. What else can you think of?
Well, I see in that what you're talking about is when I have those people in the body to talk to about a great day or a bad day, the counsel I'm going to get back on addressing that day is going to help keep me focused on God's Word. If my counsel, if my wisdom on great days, bad days, if I'm seeking advice on whatever, if I'm turning to the world who has a different priority, if that's where my community is, and I just attend services, I'm not going to get the wisdom that I need from that body.
Yeah, well, and just to jump in on you here, I'm so excited about this because we need this consistency, right? Because here's the thing. If I only see you once a week passively and I'm not in your life, I'm not going to be able to give you very good counsel. Whereas if I know you and I see you every day and we're talking multiple times a week, I'm going to be able to see your patterns of behavior. I'm going to be able to know you so much better, and I'm going to know what you need to hear. I'm going to know what you need to hear, the good and the bad. And I think that source of wisdom is great.
Yeah, it gets past this superficial, how you doing? I'm great. Good to see you.
No, you're not.
That superfluity of not niceness,
right?
Not naughtiness, as the Bible describes, but of niceness that we, if we're only passing strangers, you can't know what I need to hear. And sometimes the message I need to hear isn't life's good, life's great, hang in there. Sometimes I need some rebuke.
Yeah.
And I need to be told what I'm doing is not right, and I need to recalibrate. And I'm not going to hear that if I'm not part of this community.
Sure, and we need to hear that. I mean, I hope none of us think we have it all together. There are all places where nobody's life is perfect, and so there's places where you need to be told, hey, you're doing that wrong. And if you're someone who's sort of an isolated fringe member of a community, you're not fully invested in it, as soon as people tell you what's wrong, you're going to run. And so you need to be building those relationships, building those trusts with people. You need to be getting to know people so you know that they care about you. Because if you don't think they care about you, when they tell you what you need to change, you're going to think, oh, they're just getting after me, and you're going to run. And you're not going to obtain that blessing.
Exactly. Not only when I'm needing to be corrected,
sure,
but you can't give me wisdom, and I can't provide you a good wisdom on how to handle a problem if I don't really know what the problem is, and I don't know how you respond to problems in life. The less I'm invested in your life, the less I can counsel you, the less I can offer correction. And so there's just a whole lot that's missing when an individual isn't a part of that community.
Sure, so there's blessings that we obtain because we're getting that benefit from other people. But what is our responsibilities as communities? Because we shouldn't just be parasites on the body. We should be members of the body. So how do we get involved?
I think Ephesians 4 answers this quite well. He starts there in about verse 11 or 12. They're talking about how certain roles are given for the equipping or for the training of the body. It's not given to do the work, but to equip the body. Well, what work is the body equipped to do? If you go down to verse 16, it talks about the whole body is joined and fit together purposely, that God put it that way, and that when every part is functioning as it should, the body's going to make increase of itself unto edifying itself in love. It's going to grow.
Yeah, there's so much there.
Not just in numbers, but it's going to grow internally, what we've been talking about here.
Sure. Well, it talks about how we all receive from the head. We all receive from Christ. And so individually we have our relationships with Christ, but those are mediated through and with one another, that we experience those together. And so I like how it talks about there, I think it's in the New King James Version, about each part doing its share causes growth, that we all have a responsibility.
Exactly. When you're present and you're invested, that's going to require for you to give and serve other people and put their needs above yours. But what you get back when you do that is that your needs begin to be met. And a lot of times people will look at a church and say, well, it doesn't do anything for me. I want to tell you, the first thing I hear when I hear somebody say that I'm not getting anything from the body is, well, you're probably not giving anything to the body if you're not getting anything back.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I think the wisdom of God to know that we need to be serving and that we're most blessed whenever we give instead of when we just receive. And the local church body gives us the place to do that. I think about how there's a lot of stats about loneliness right now. And supposedly in a world where we have social media, which makes us more connected than ever, we're actually more disconnected than ever. Now, we're not to say you should swear off social media. Obviously, we're a content creation organization.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, okay. But we're here and we believe this is a valid tool, but it's not a replacement for what God designed.
It's not. Watching a video, you can learn a lot, and we hope you learn from these videos and their encouragement to you, but it's not the replacement for a connection into somebody's life. As many people, we hope millions of people will watch this and see this and all the videos that we share, but no matter how many people watch this or how many times you watch this, you and I on the other side of that screen are never going to be intimately connected the way that I could be intimately connected with somebody that I work with,
Right.
that I worship with, that I weep with, that I rejoice with, that becomes my family.
Yeah.
That's going to help.
Sure, and so that's going to take some messiness, and that's going to take a rugged commitment to love and to seeking the will of Christ first.
And we'll all get what we need back
Yeah.
in that moment.
What a gracious thing. Thanks for tuning in today.
God bless.